I've been meaning to check his out for a while, but I haven't. Let's react.
I just got back from the Superman movie.
Woo woo!
It was good. I enjoyed it.
There we go.
That's the quick and
We're done. Turn it off. Let's find out what it was. He didn't rave about it. He also didn't say it was bad. So I'm really curious, why didn't he rave about it? Because I didn't give it a 9 out of 10. I didn't give it a 10 out of 10, but I gave it a good score, and I have my reasons.
dirty of it. I don't think it was like an amazing masterpiece.
Right.
I thought it was good. I did have a good time with this film.
I told my wife when I got out of it, I generally enjoyed the movie.
Enjoyed it. Now, in a lot of ways, I too am like Superman here, doing something very heroic and giving my opinion on this movie.
Okay.
That's playing with fire. That's a dangerous game
Yes,
right now, because
it
if
is.
you like the movie, you're wrong. If you dislike the movie, you're wrong. If you found the movie just okay, you're wrong. The discourse around this film has been mind-boggling.
It
But I'm
has
still gonna-
been crazy, guys, because my whole channel is Superman, and y'all just fight all the time. I mean, and what's funny is some of you call me a Snyder cultist, and some of you call me a gunbot. And I'm like, why don't y'all just argue with each other, okay, and leave me out of it? Because I don't understand where either one of you are coming from.
Spit out my thoughts on it. So, only way I do that these days is through spoilers. Well, I mean, not through spoilers, but I like to talk about spoilers so I can really get into the spaghetti and the
Okay,
meatballs.
spoilers,
So this
guys.
is your warning. I'm going to be talking about spoilers when talking about this.
All right.
So first things first, there is a lot of things going on in this movie. It jumps
Yep.
around from a lot of different things that keep spawning in. And I know a lot of people were kind of concerned that it might be juggling too much. And I do think after seeing it, there was a lot that got neglected just because of how many things came into the fold.
I'm curious what he's going to say here, because I didn't feel the movie was overstuffed. I have my problems with it, but overstuffed is not one of them. Too much humor is not one of them. I felt like it could have used more humor, but I've discovered with my poll that I am in the minority. Hardly anybody thinks it could have used more humor. But I definitely didn't feel it was overstuffed, nor did I think anybody stole the show except for Superman. So I'm curious what he's going to say here.
Easiest example is the Justice Gang.
Okay.
They are side characters. They do
Yes.
have like an important role to play, but you don't get to know anything about them at all. Just very
But should you? I mean, that's how side characters are in all movies. It's just this time they have like powers, you know what I mean? So do you really need to know a whole bunch about what their backstory is for their side character positions?
like surface level things, which it was always going to be a tall order to try and flesh them out alongside everything else going on here. But even
Sure,
outside of
yeah.
them, Clark Kent isn't really a character in the movie. He's
Yeah, I
only
didn't
on
like
screen
that.
like maybe 2 or 3 times and only shares a scene with Lois like twice. It's
We really don't even get to see what kind of Clark Kent he is. It's very hard to tell.
almost entirely Superman, which I think is okay, but because you don't really have a whole lot on the Clark Kent side of things, the relationship between him and Lois, I don't think was super well established. Like, super well conveyed. Like, one of the scenes is that interview that everyone's seen clips of, where
Okay.
they're like, you know, Superman's yelling at her. It seems like they're at each other's throat. In the context of the film, though, it makes sense. Like, it's not a bad scene, but you never really get to see them, like, actually be in love. Like, it doesn't really feel like Lois Lane would go all out to try and save Clark Kent. Like, she was even considering breaking up with him, like, right before, like, the entire situation went tits up. So it just felt like, because the movie
I feel like I've known enough people to see how a lot of people in her position will ruin a good thing that they have because they hit a difficult point. I wouldn't say that, like when she went to go save him, that's usually what happens. I've noticed in real life. Somebody will be willing to divorce somebody or something, but then if something happens to him, that love is strong and it comes in and they go and they help them and they do it without even thinking, because it wasn't that the relationship wasn't working, is that it was that things were hard and they were afraid it would stop working, so they just end it before it gets too hard. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I saw there, which was pretty natural to me.
He was introducing so many things, putting all of these ingredients into the pot in the cauldron. It
All right.
led to some other elements getting pushed to the background and thrown on the bench, like
Let's hear
in
it.
terms of its characters. That's not to say that I think the characters are bad or anything like that. I just think they were a little undercooked. There was a lot more potential with them than was fully realized.
I feel like that with the Daily Planet newscast a little bit, and that news crew a little bit, but that's kind of just because I know those characters so well, and I know what wasn't there, like Steve Lombard or Troop or Cat Grant, I know what's there available for these characters, and I do wish that we would have had more newsroom. You could do a whole show on that, like a sitcom if you wanted, but honestly, it wasn't needed. They were just the people in the newsroom. You didn't really need to know a bunch about them. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the movie's sake.
In this film, like there was more meat on the bones here. Like it wasn't, we
Okay.
weren't in the clean plate club. We weren't, eating the best meal when it came to these characters that I think could have been served up. And I imagine in future films will be explored more in depth, obviously, but I wanted to make a mention of it here.
All right.
Now, something that didn't really sit right with me is just how much Superman gets his ass beat. Superman gets slapped around more often than the box ghost from Danny Phantom. Like, off rip, too. The movie starts with him plopping down. He's defeated. He's then brought to the lair. The Superman robots play him his favorite ASMR, which is a video from his parents saying, "We love you, Kal-El. We love you. We're sorry we're dead." They even say it soothes him. He likes it. Then after he heals himself up to like 83%, he goes back to fight another villain, the Hammer of Bavaria. And he gets his ass beat like a drum.
It's the same villain, but yeah.
Again. And the Hammer is basically Tony Stark's prototype.
Well, what they do, though, is they show you, first you hear he loses, then they show you why he lost, because he's not fighting the Hammer of Bavaria. He's fighting the strength of himself versus, again, spoilers, versus the mind of Luthor, who knows his every single move. But Luthor isn't as strong as he is. He found a way to be as strong as he is. So it's really, to me, it makes sense when you think about it, and it's not really even like a cope. It's just like, no, that's what's happening here. But it bothers a lot of people. I didn't get bothered too much about how much he got beat up. It happens all the time in the cartoons and the comics and everything. The bleeding part is where I was like, okay, we don't need to be bleeding so much,
Type Iron Man suit that he made in that cave. he once again gets...
Like, I don't think Henry Cavill ever bled, and he was fighting Kryptonians. You know what I mean? Kryptonians are what could make you bleed. None of them bled.
Walloped. And I understand, like, this is an early Superman, like, he's still new to his career here, but, I mean, come on. The villains treat him like a punching bag. They're, like, tweaking on his nipples and like, they just get full reign to just annihilate him. I don't think he wins a single skirmish without help at any point. In every single fight, I'm pretty sure he had someone come in to help him in order to win. The only time...
I don't think he needed the help with the kaiju. I think he just got it. They killed the thing. You know what I mean? I was curious how he would have ended that without that.
The time that didn't happen is when he disposed of a bunch of grunts. Outside of that, though, every, like, actual fight, he had help.
Well, Krypto did rip the helmet off that one guy. But I think that was no big deal.
Which might be the point, but even still, it just felt a little underwhelming that Superman is struggling this much against everything and everyone. And I don't want anyone to get this misconstrued. I think the fights are really hype. I actually think they did a good job of capturing what a Superman fight would look and feel like. It feels heavy. It feels really well done.
I would agree.
I actually really enjoyed the action. I just didn't like that usually the action would end with Superman going, in like a Peter Griffin death pose. Like, he would constantly just get ragdolled. Until someone came in to give him an advantage or give him some type of help, and then he would overcome and defeat the foe, the adversary. Now, I understand why he would struggle so much against Ultraman and Lex Luthor team up. That is actually a really cool combo where Lex Luthor has basically downloaded all of Superman's moves. He can see into the future with his fucking Sharingan here, where he knows every one of his moves. So he's come up with so many different countermeasures, like all of these combat styles and techniques, in order to say them to Ultraman, who will then use them on Superman to...
I find it interesting that he's positively speaking about that, because even people I know that loved the movie, whether they were Superman fans or not, they had trouble with Lex and his move calling system. Like, they thought that was really dumb and weird. And if you think about it, he should not be able to think fast enough to be able to keep up with what Superman's doing and how he's fighting. You know what I mean? Like, if a true super speed fight happens, the movie would have to be in slow-mo. It would have to be. Everybody would have to be still, and all the stuff would have to be fighting, which is usually how Flash stuff works. That's why I always say that, Flash is faster than Superman, and Superman his speed is merely an extension of his strength. It's not like he actually has a super speed ability. He's just very quick.
Great effect. So he's basically like,
but that's not how it's always portrayed. That's just how I think it should be.
A55. B-17, Blue 42, and Ultraman does it, and Superman's struggling because he's basically fighting two opponents in one. A super smart guy and a
Right.
super strong guy, because it's a clone of him. That's a really cool combo, and it makes sense why that would be a really tough opponent. But it's not just him that he struggles against. It's pretty much every time he's about to fight someone, he needs someone else to come in to help him in order to win. The scenes were still flashy and well done, and I actually think the CGI was surprisingly good here considering how in the shitter DCU CGI was. It's good to see that they've bounced back and actually delivered some really nice visuals for the most part here.
I'm glad he said that because so many people have said CW graphics, budget CGI and all this. And I think maybe the trailer messed some people up because the movie is sharp. Like it is clearly without a doubt, as it should be, 10, 12 years later, better than Man of Steel's graphics. It's a fantastic looking movie. I can't think of a single scene in that movie where I'm like, that could have been done way better. I think of stuff where I'm like, that could have been a little sharper, but even like the scene that people made fun of when, with the Superman flying face, we call it, that wasn't even CGI. That was him in front of an LED screen. So it's like it was just lighting and stuff, I mean, it's really, really interesting how people latched on to that. They parroted that, phrase of bad CGI, bad CGI. If you actually look at it with your eyeballs, the CGI is sharp, crisp, clear, looks really good. There's not a lot of that green screen obvious nonsense going on. It was really well done in the visuals department. And I wasn't even worried about the visuals when I saw the trailers because James Gunn said that he gives his team way longer than normal. And I went back then, I can't remember now, how much time he gave him versus how much time other movies give him. And he does. He gives him plenty of time. So I wasn't even concerned about that. So when people started complaining about it, I'm like, why is this a thing? Like, it doesn't even look bad, So I'm really glad he's talking about that.
So don't get it twisted. I did still really like the action. It's just something that I didn't love the decision of making Superman always having a hard time against the opponent. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I get that.
I'll stop yapping about
I
that.
get
I want
that.
to get into a little bit of glaze because there are some things in this movie that I think worked really well. I very much enjoyed Krypto. I think Krypto was really fun. It never
good.
got like stale or, stupid with Krypto. Like it very clearly leans into the absurdity of the super dog being like a sidekick that fights. And they
Right.
even play around with him still just being a dog. So like Mr. Terrific's floating orbs, the dog gets.
That's where the Man of Steel people really have trouble with this movie is he leans into the absurdity of comics is what he does. He leans into the absurdity of comics. And Man of Steel kind of did a little bit. That's why Zack Snyder had so much destruction. And he did it the realistic way. It didn't resonate with a lot of people.
Really, interested in playing, so goes out and starts biting the orbs and shit, which ends up playing a big role in the end for how the dog helps Superman against
Which was cool.
Ultraman. It's cute. Like, I actually thought Krypto was great. I also really liked Lois Lane. I thought she was really well done. I do think she was a very strong choice for Lois Lane. And even though I did criticize that her and Clark Kent didn't have a whole lot on screen time together, that's not to say that I think Lois Lane had nothing to do. She plays a huge role here in uncovering Lex Luthor's dastardly evil plot, as well as saving Superman and doing all she can to actually help him. Without Lois Lane, Superman wouldn't have been successful. And I think they do a good job with her. And I also think that the Justice Gang is hype. I wish we got to see more of them. Mr. Terrific in particular, I was really surprised by how much he got to do because he's
he
like the only one in the Justice Gang I didn't know anything about. I wasn't familiar with his game, but now I'm a huge fan.
I wasn't very familiar with him or Metamorpho. I've heard of Metamorpho, but I don't think I've ever actually read anything with Metamorpho in it. I don't think. But yeah, Mr. Terrific, I've read stuff with him in it, but I didn't really know the extent of his powers.
Like, he is fun to watch when he's fighting. So like when he goes with Lois Lane to the pocket dimension, he basically destroys the entire barracks by himself using all of his spheres, and he's playing music. It's a very like on the nose scene, but it's
awesome.
still done really well that it becomes hype. And I thought he was super cool. He was really fun to watch. I also really, really liked the Green Lantern here. He is a character that I think comedy works super well for. I think Nathan did an incredible job with the Green Lantern here. He doesn't get a ton of screen time, but
the biggest complaints that I've heard about Green Lantern have nothing to do with the actual portrayal of the character. It's that he doesn't have a green orb or lines to his constructs, which isn't always the case in every comic. And, that's the kind of stuff that I feel like people can't get past, and they improperly judge a movie. They judge it for what they think it should be and not for what it is. That's why I like Man of Steel. That's why I like Superman Returns. That's why I like a lot of stuff. And that's why I have trouble with stuff like the first season of Superboy, because it's just not good. you know? And I mean, you if you get past the whole what you want it to be, you can get to where you actually do find things that are real problems or really good.
When he's there, he makes the most of it. Hawkgirl is the only one in the Justice Gang that didn't really get a ton to do. At the end, she does make like a big decision to kill one of the big bads, where the big bad's like, "You won't kill me, you're all so weak like Superman, you don't have the to take me out." And she's like, "I'm not Superman," and just kills him, which I thought was great. She doesn't have a ton of screen time or a ton of like lines in general. So I would like to see more from her, because I do think she's cool. The whole Justice Gang I thought was cool.
Overall, her stuff was unimpressive. Not her as in performance, but you just didn't get much. She was very much a side character.
Including the new addition, which was the Element Man. He was awesome. He also didn't have a whole lot to do, but they did give him a bit of characterization, because while Superman was trapped in a pocket dimension, he's able to make Kryptonite. They've already established there's no Kryptonite left on Earth, so he can make it. Yeah. Meaning he is like the ultimate defense against Superman, but he joins the Justice Gang after Superman saves his baby and saves them from the pocket dimension. And I think they're very cool characters that I would like to see more of and get to watch them do more things. Now let's get into the big ones. Lex Luthor. That's a hard role to play, and I think Nicholas Hoult does a really good job, but I do think the script betrays his talent a few times. I think he does an extraordinary job being menacing. He never comes off as like cringe or like too over the top. It's always perfectly on that line where his rage and his intellect is being channeled in the most efficient means possible.
I'm really curious to see what he's saying here, guys, because I've heard, and you can put it in the comments, some people did not like Holt and some did. Some thought he did a good acting job, but they didn't like his Lex. Like, it's kind of weird how all over the place, because when it first came out, people were like, Holt, 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 all the way, stole the show, Holt. And then it started coming out that people were just holding their tongues and be like, I really didn't like him that much, So I'm really curious what he's saying here.
To get what he wants. And what he ultimately wants is Superman dead. And I think he does a great job of getting that to the audience. They also aren't afraid to show that he is evil. I was a little concerned that they were going to make him like very, soft, because they had that announcement about how they removed a scene from this film that had Ultraman punching Krypto because it was too negative. And it just felt weird because, that's a bad guy. He's supposed to do bad things. It makes sense in the context of the film. It's Krypto the super dog. I can already see where that scene probably was here, where they go into Superman's lair and Krypto tries to defend it. I imagine Ultraman probably punched Krypto there when he was attacking.
Yeah, I think
in the film, the final cut, they just capture Krypto. I don't think that was like over the line or anything egregious, but it made me concerned that they weren't going to actually make these villains bad. They do. Lex Luthor plays a game of Russian roulette in front of Superman.
Very bad,
where he has one guy who was just nice to Superman. Not even a guy that Superman even really knows all that well. It's just a guy that liked Superman. They had interacted a little bit. And Lex Luthor wanted some answers out of him, so he puts a gun to his head, plays Russian roulette, and just blows his brains out.
Yep.
It was like really effective. It was a surprising scene. But after that, it felt like the movie didn't want to commit to that version of Lex Luthor again. He doesn't go to that level after that. And then it kind of shies away from him being how he was.
Well, Superman got away. So after that, I think that he was focused on getting Superman. Otherwise, I guess he could have just captured people, but he already knew that he knew where his people were being held. I don't know. I don't know that it would have been necessary for them to continue that.
Was in that scene and the few scenes preceding it, where I think he was at his strongest. It then kind of falls into being like a little more tame, where he talks about how envious he is of Superman because I'm so smart, but you're so strong, and it makes people forget about how smart I am, and it makes us feel small. You're a reminder that we're just insignificant. And it's like, okay, that is understandable, but it's a little different than how you were kind of setting him up earlier, and I don't think it utilizes what Nicholas Hoult was best at prior. Like, it kind of comes across more whiny than it does like big evil, super bad
did
guy
get a little
that
bit
is
of that.
a capable.
I think a lot of that whininess, though, was coming from the point where he was getting to the point where he was like realizing he was going to lose. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I feel.
Opponent to Superman, even while not being superpowered himself. So I do still think Lex Luthor overall was really good. I just think maybe they were a little shy to really commit to that version that I think they were building up to initially.
Okay.
Which is, it's still fine how he ends up here. Like, I still think it's good, but they kind of almost reduce him to a joke at the end where, like, Superman obviously saves the day, and Lex Luthor, everything that he ever built is now being burned down around him. The whole world is viewing him as a traitor for all of his terrible things that he was scheming.
Right.
And then as he's like, everything's ruined and he's yelling at Superman, Krypto comes in and treats him like a chew toy, and it becomes a joke, and they're like, ooh. Superman's like, oh, come on, Krypto, set him down. Oh, come on, you're hurting him. Come on, set him down. It reduces him to kind of a joke, which I think kind of...
Okay. What he's saying here, guys, you've heard me say that I didn't think Lex should have been caught at the end. Lex in the cartoons, the animated series, which is what this felt like a lot, he doesn't really get caught. And I thought that the fact that they caught him kind of showed me that we probably wouldn't be getting a Superman 2. Because they wrapped it up. They closed that story. And I do realize there's a possibility for him to, get out of jail or, whatever. But there's all kinds of things you could do with that. But I didn't like that he was caught. I didn't like it. But rich billionaires, they don't get caught. They have a fallout guy. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that he's right, he all that genius, all that villainry, all that everything that he was so powerful, it got reduced down to a chew toy. I like the way that he put that. That makes a lot of sense. That's probably one of the most based versions of reviews of Lex, or even this movie so far that I've heard. That might be what I call this, the most based review of Superman. We'll see.
Betrays.
Put it in the comments if I use the same title or not.
He was being set up. Not the biggest deal in the world. I do still think it was a good Lex Luthor for the most part. I just would have liked to see them fully commit to where it seemed like they were going.
That
maybe
makes
I'm
sense.
misunderstanding what the direction they wanted for the character was.
Maybe
Actually,
that makes sense, yeah.
I want to make a mention of this before talking about how Superman is as a character, which I know everyone wants to
really
know
want to get to it, yeah.
It's a new Superman. How is he? But before answering that, I want to mention there are quite a few emotional scenes in this film that get undercut with comedy. I know this has become a huge cliche in comic book movies. It is such a huge trend.
I'm a comedy-loving guy. I've always loved comedies. I prefer when we undercut emotional scenes with comedy. It helps me to I don't want to be there so long. You know what I mean? I want to be back to the comedy.
This curse has not been broken. This film does have humor cutting through emotional bits, and I don't love it. It's not every time, so I don't think it's like a huge deal. It's only a few scenes I can remember off the top of my head. But it would have just benefited from not doing that because it already has a lot of comedy in it. Every character is quippy. Pretty much every comic book movie ever has quippy characters. There's no just like non-quippy characters anymore. But I really wish they would just let the emotional beats ride. So an example of this is kind of what I mentioned with Lex Luthor at the very end, where he gets like reduced to just the butt of a joke, like a punchline. But there's also a scene where Superman, everything is burning down around him because it turns out that message that he used to like to listen to when getting healed about his parents sent him here, like made him feel really calm and really, hopeful about his mission. Well, it turns out the rest of that message was actually his parents saying that he needs to conquer the world and have a whole harem so that way he can spread his seed and bring back Kryptonians. And it's like, that's a huge thing. And it wasn't faked or anything. It was like the authentic message. That is the message from his real parents. And that's a game changer for him. That changes his whole life.
Yeah.
And the weight of that is felt all around him because Lex Luthor reveals it to the world. So everyone hates Superman. They're all questioning him now. Like, he came here to conquer us. Can we trust him? And he's having an emotional conversation with Lois Lane about it. And then it kind of devolves into the two of them joking. Like, he mentions, like, yeah, I gotta get my dog. Lex Luthor kidnapped him. I can't find him. He's kind of a bad dog, though. He's, like, not even a good dog, but...
Well, they weren't joking. The lines came off as jokes to us. He wasn't joking. He's like, he's not a good dog. That was showing his character. So I think that this is actually a bad example of what he's trying to convey. I do believe that what he's saying is in the movie, but I don't think that's a good example of it.
He might be scared, so I'm gonna go try and, maybe save him. And they start, interjecting some jokes in there, and it's just like it's not really a good time for that. Like in the background of the whole conversation, they have the
See, I felt it was a perfect time because it just showed his character. He was down, he wasn't feeling good, but he still was just going to do the right thing. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's how it felt to me. He had been out there looking for the dog. He's coming back to rest. He's going to go back out and look some more. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty, it is on point for me.
Justice Gang fighting like this dimensional imp, I think is what he called it. And it's a really cool looking thing visually, but it's played off as kind of like a distraction joke. And I don't know, I just feel like it would have been a lot heavier to just let that scene ride, because that's a pretty big deal.
That's where it's just a preference thing. I liked the way it was. If it was heavier, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I would have been like, this scene's too long. I would have been like, this is getting too deep. Let's get back to the story. That's kind of how I would have felt.
Like that's a very emotional moment. I don't think it needed comedy to like deflate it. And it's not like it does it every time, because there's a scene where Clark is interacting with his father. And Clark is still wrestling with his real parents, sending him on this mission that goes against everything he thought they wanted for him and everything he wants for himself. His dad sits him down about like how, parents aren't there to control your lives and give you purpose. They're there to give you tools. And it's ultimately your actions, your decisions that define you. It's a really good speech, actually.
There's
no comedy there. It is just like an actual heart-to-heart moment. And I think it hit really, really well.
Now, it starts off showing Krypto out there playing with the cows, which was cute. So even though there wasn't comedy during it, you did have a lighthearted moment guiding you into it.
Should have done that every time it was setting up an emotional moment. I think it would have helped off. It really would have helped with the payoff. But anyway, the big thing. How is the new Superman, David Corenswet? I actually thought he was great. I think he is a really good fit for this version of Superman they are gearing up towards.
Okay.
I know they were talking about how hopeful they want this Superman to be. I think he can come across that way really, really well. In this movie, they point blank say, like, you're very trusting. Like, he trusts everyone. In a lot of ways, he's a lot like his dog. Like, he himself is always, going to the next thing, because he wants to do good. He wants to make people happy, make people proud of him.
Yes,
he wants to
true.
help as many people as possible, and he sees the best in everyone. Lois Lane even said, you think everyone out there is just beautiful. And I think that's a really cool direction for Superman here. Very true to, like, the Superman ideal. And I think David Corenswet does a good job of embodying that. It is a fun Superman to watch. He does everything possible to save everyone possible.
Yes.
He's fighting a giant kaiju. Well, he might have hit it too hard, now it's stumbling. It might hit this building. You bet your sweet Pippi he's going behind that monster to kind of shove it back to the middle so that way it doesn't fall into this building and potentially hurt someone. The monster gets defeated by the Justice Gang. Well, they were a little reckless. Now this monster might fall and hurt somebody. So he goes up, picks it up, and then gently sets it down. It is cool to see this Superman just do everything imaginable to save everyone.
That's why I ultimately landed on 8.2 and not 7.8, because they got that character so well.
Stopping a piece of rubble from just hitting a woman in her car, everything. It's cool. And I think David Corenswet does a good job here. I've been blabbering about this for a while now. Point is, I actually really did like this movie. I think it is a pretty good film. Do I think it's amazing? Not really. I think it's better than most of the DC movies that we've gotten, for sure. I definitely don't think it's a bad film by any means. I also don't think it's like a mediocre film. I do think it's a good movie. I definitely think it's...
Does Charlie give numbers? Let's see if he gives a number.
...worth watching. I don't think it's a movie everyone's going to love, but I do think there's going to be a lot of people that do love it. I was more in the camp of, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I did have a good time watching this one. And it makes me excited to see what comes next from this new vision for DC. So anyway, that's really about it. See ya.
No number. Okay. Well, that was a good review, guys. Charlie's a really based guy. It's interesting to hear his opinion. I really agreed with a lot of what he was saying. I think preference-wise, I just need different stuff than him. But it was really cool to see. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys.